You want me to repeat all that?
with the exception of this.
We're live now. All right. Well, welcome everyone to our budget meeting. This is our new day for the budget meeting. We moved it from the second Monday of the month to the fourth Monday, no, from the fourth Monday of the month to the second Monday of the month.
Yes.
But we still have the same documents that we had last time. We just given people an opportunity to look through it a little bit better. We have two budget issues that we're going through. One is, of course, our monthly budget review, and then the other one is a mid-year budget review and adjustments that we prepared based on our sales tax that we received and everything. So, Lonnie, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, can you hear me all right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
For a change.
I'm sorry?
I said for a change, you're coming in real good.
Okay. If you remember, on the cover sheet of the July statement, I had overlooked some errors down in the I&I section, and all those are corrected on the sheet that you have currently. And so, at any rate, you can see the percentages, but that's the only change from the previous budget report. And so, at any rate, this is the one that you need to hang on to. And so you can look it over. Any questions you have on it, I've been glad to try to answer them. The other thing that I did not have, because I didn't have the information, was the sales tax report for August for you last time, and that came in the next day after we had the meeting, and I prepared the spreadsheet for you, and you can look at the August numbers, and remember that the numbers 20 and 21 columns are comparing those 2 years, and of course you can see where August falls there, and where we are for the year over 2020. But because of 2020 being an unusual situation, I've gone down on the bottom there and extended some calculations for 19. I didn't go back all the way to the first of the year, but you can see from June on, the first numbers across are comparing the month, and then the next set of numbers are comparing the year-to-date at that point. So, so if you want to look at the bottom lines, August 19 to August 21, you can see the percentages there, and we're up almost 50% for that month. And so
in other words, the biggest month we've ever had in the last 10 years.
I didn't, quite frankly, go back but that's...
Oh, I don't think we've ever been in the 300,000s before.
You're probably right. I didn't do a thorough analysis because there's been a lot of things going on, and
That's just unbelievable.
but even the year-to-date numbers are up 31%. And then, of course, over last year at that point, we're up 39.25%. So,
Wow.
Needless to say, I just hope that this continues.
Yeah, we do. We do hope it continues.
Any other questions or comments on the budget report or sales tax report?
Lonnie, is there anything in this package that shows where all that money is located that we're going to use to pay for the new building and the basement here?
Not in this report, Terry. I I can tell you where enough money is located to do that, but technically on the building program up there, it should be split, since it's a maintenance building, between water, sewer, and street. And so
It's in those accounts?
it is not in those accounts at present. Well, there's enough money there, yes, there is.
It doesn't show in here in those accounts?
No, it does not. This is revenue and expenditure,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah, Lonnie, I'm missing, I guess, usually we have a statement of accounts in through here, and I guess I didn't get that this time.
I have not put that in there because there will be some adjustments that we will need to make, and because of all of our turnover and everything, I wasn't comfortable putting that in there at this time.
Sure, but I think in that statement of accounts, that shows a lot of where the money is
Yes,
located.
It will show the fund, and of course, as I told you before, there's nearly $800,000 in the franchise fee fund, and then we just got back the other day the money that we had spent out of general fund for the energy saving improvements, like the auditorium here and throughout the city. That's in excess of $400,000. So there's cash there that we have available to pay those.
And also, in regarding to the auditorium, the CAPC has taken, I believe, 75% of that funding. So we're doing 25% and CAPC 75%.
And what was presented to you was 100%.
Yeah.
So it's not, and I truly believe that the building up there will ultimately pay for itself in several different ways.
And I just looked up the inflation rate. I guess I was looking in the right place. It said 5.4%, so even with that, we still had a pretty good increase.
Yeah. Anybody else have a question on our monthly financials?
Question, are collections going smoothly? I mean, do people have the money to pay the tax? I know sometimes there's a lack, at least especially like the CAPC tax, sometimes a lapse time, to get it in. Is it all coming in pretty well?
Well, I can't speak to that effect. All we can do is look at our bottom numbers of what we get from the state.
Okay.
Of course, the CAPC gets their own assets, their own credits on the taxes. But you can see, obviously, people are spending money. What we've got is a sales tax, so obviously they're submitting, the retailers are submitting the taxes.
Good. Okay.
People get confused, and they do that and we all know this, especially with the CAPC. They think it's, the owners are saying, I have to pay. Well, it's not. It's the consumer and the customer who pays.
Yeah.
So.
I know that.
I know you do. I'm just kind of reminding the general public more than anything. Well, if there isn't anything on the monthly, we can go over to our mid-year budget, and Lonnie can walk us through that.
Well, basically, there's not a whole lot of change and there's no change from last time when we looked at it. I have not made any changes, but I took in the different departments, I took what the department heads submitted. They were very conservative in making changes, and some of them actually even balanced out and zeroed and with no increase because they took away from one line item and increased another one. make some modest changes in revenue based on some of the things that we're experiencing, but I'm a little cautious with the revenue because I don't know, we're not out of this pandemic situation yet. I hope that it continues as it has been with the sales tax and everything, but I don't know that. And I don't want to put the city or anyone in a compromising situation by over budgeting based on that. So I've done a conservative approach to it. The way I did it, I took the monthly, actually the year-to-date and budget report, just like we have, and I extended it on out and made the adjustments. You can see the adjustments, and then what the adjusted budget balance is. So you can compare what the original was over to what our adjustment is, adjusted balance is. I thought that was a good way to present it so that you could actually see the difference and how it affects it. Nothing significant there at all.
Mayor, I'm looking at the, if I'm looking at this correctly. On Department 14 Fire and EMS,
Yes, sir.
the adjustment is more than what their original budget was. Is that right?
I think they've had some, let me get over there and take a look before I answer your question. On what item? Or are you talking about a total?
Their salaries, wages, dash overtime.
Yes, there was a change that didn't get put in the original budget that needed to be put in this one, and so that's the reason for that.
Okay.
But, it was underreported in the original budget, and so we made that correction, and that's the reason for that.
Bill, the fire department will never come in within budget. Just ain't gonna happen,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
No, I'm not, you know, I mean, the explanation I got is that that number wasn't included, therefore the adjustment had to be made. It's not we're suddenly paying twice as much, you know, overtime. So.
Actually, if you, in answer to your question and in response to what Terry is saying, he's absolutely correct in that it's really difficult because of the situation. And ambulance calls are up significantly from what the chief tells me this year. And the overtime is always kind of a monster to deal with because you got a certain pool of people and that can work and do that sort of thing. But the overtime compared to the increase in the ambulance calls that we've had is relatively small. I mean, we've had and the mayor can maybe help me here on this, but we've had a significant number more ambulance calls this year than we've had in any previous year.
I may be totally wrong in my memory, and I didn't write it down, but I want to say we're almost year-to-date 300 more ambulance calls.
Wow.
Of course, now this is the entire city, entire western district from Kings River over. So that includes Holiday Island, out toward Beaver Lake, and plus the city.
And I'm assuming that the COVID spike might have something to do with that?
I don't know.
Okay.
A lot of them are at nursing homes
Yeah.
out at Holiday Island, so it's just hard to tell. I don't know. Nick and I have talked about that. I don't think we really come up with a reason why it's more. It's just, of course, our population's aging too, so that may
Yes,
be
we
part
are.
of it. Yes.
Does that answer your question, sir?
Yes, thank you.
Anybody else see anything they'd have a question about?
And question for you, Mayor, where is it, number, about our budget on the agenda? Number 2, we'll be approving the far right column on our agenda, under new business.
Yes.
Yes, far right column, and it'll be, you have a resolution there.
Yeah, under the amended budget.
Okay.
And this, all of this will be attached to the resolution for documentation.
Okay.
Okay, if there are no other questions or comments, Mayor, if it's all right, I'll sit down. Would you like me to wait till we go through this in council meeting?
Just in case Harry might have a question or something when he
Okay.
comes in. Yes, sir.
I would be
All right.
glad to do that.
Anybody else have anything before Lonnie sits down? All right, thank you, Lonnie, appreciate it very much. All right, if that's it, we will take a short adjournment until 6 o'clock and reconvene for our normal council meeting.
Mayor, since he's staying here for that number 2 under new business, when we approve the agenda, if we moved new business number 2 up under approval of the minutes, that get us handled that, and that way he could leave after we vote on it?
Which the reason it's set up the way it is, the people who have to travel the furthest after the meeting are earliest on the agenda. The first person from away has to travel an hour and a half after this meeting, and then that's why the sequence is what it is.
We should get through these pretty quick.
Oh, I like your optimism.
Thank you, Mr. Ott, but I don't mind staying.
That's okay.
We're going to talk fast.
I'd loan you some money for the vending machines if I had some.
Speaking of Harry,
There's Harry.
hi, Harry.
Hello, Harry.
Just closed our budget meeting. Pardon me? Just closed the budget meeting.
we could.
All right. Welcome, everyone, to our city council meeting for Monday, September 13th, 2021. If we could have a roll call, Madam Clerk, to establish quorum.
Harry Meyer,
Yeah.
Melissa Green,
Here.
Terry McClung,
I'm here.
Bill Ott,
Here.
Laura Jo Smoley. Present. And Autumn Slane is absent with notice.
All right. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, if I can get a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, any additions, corrections? I believe, Mr. Weaver, the ordinance regarding the sidewalks, repairing sidewalks, we probably need to strike. Do you have anything for that?
I can discuss it a little, but the ordinance is not prepared, no.
Well, we'll leave it there and leave it open for discussion. Okay. Other than that, I think we have everything in our packet, so. All those in favor of the agenda as submitted, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, get a motion to approve the minutes.
So
Motion
moved.
to approve the minutes of August 23rd, 2021.
Have any corrections or additions?
Can we have a second?
Here, yeah, do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Ott?
Oh, I'm sorry.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And a motion to approve the special meeting for August 25th.
So moved.
Second.
I got a motion by Mr. Ott and second by Ms. Smoley. Any additions, changes, discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. We've got a Planning Commission application from Joe Hill. That's in your packet. Joe lives up on Huckleberry Lane, so, Ms.
I'd like
Green?
to kind of suspend things and ask if we would consider maybe voting on Mr. Hill tonight. The Planning Commission is really short. Mr. Hill has been a resident here for 17 years, and I think most people know him. So I'd like to go ahead and just make a motion to accept the application of Joe Hill.
I'll second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the application for Joe Hill for position 7 on the Planning Commission, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Our next one is an application for the CAPC, position 3 by Patrick Burnett.
Motion to approve Patrick Burnett.
I'll
Second.
second that.
All right, Mr. McClung, motion, and Mr. Ott, I'll put Mr. Ott down as a second. Discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. And also, we've got a vacancy in the hospital and parks, and also on the cemetery. So if anybody's out there and watching or in the audience would like to put in an application, please do so. And we do have an application for position 7 on the HDC by Kyle Palmer.
Move to accept.
I'll second that. I'd like to say he is a antique window restorator, and I've met with him. I think he'd be excellent.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Okay, so we will vote on him at the next meeting?
No,
Do you want to vote on him now?
Yes, please.
Okay. Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor of Kyle Palmer?
Terry's got
Terry
a,
has
Oh,
his hand
Mr.
up.
McClung?
I don't know him, so I mean, I haven't had a chance to, I don't know
We can
anything
wait.
about him or anything. So.
we can wait if you would, it doesn't matter to me.
Mr. McClung, would you prefer to wait until
Look,
next
you
meeting?
can do whatever you want to do. Vote on him if you want, but I won't vote for him because I don't know him. But you're welcome to do whatever you choose to do.
Now, what's the council's wish here?
Well, there's a motion on the table, so
Right. Okay, we do have a motion to accept Kyle Palmer for position 7. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed?
No?
I think that's 5,
Or one?
Okay. That brings us up to public comments. Please limit your time to 3 minutes per person. Do we have anybody coming up?
Ferguson Stewart, number 7 Harvey Road. I'd first want to say thank you to the people here at the Pines Edition that showed up at the meetings, showed up at the workshops, that did a lot of work and helped us out. So that's how city government works, is by participation. So thank you very much. Also, what I'm here, I wear a lot of hats. I think I talked about that last time I was here. I'm also the member of the Masonic Lodge, and we will be hosting and providing our scholarship pancake breakfast on October 16th at 8 to 11 a.m. And tickets are $6 each. You can either get them from any lodge member or myself, or at the door. And the door, it's 3 Harvey Road in Eureka is where the lodge is and where the breakfast is going to be held. That's 8 to 11. Thank you very much.
And what was that date again for one?
October 16th.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
How about the written letters? The 2 written letters?
All right. No, we don't have anybody else? Okay. Right. Okay, we have 2 written letters.
Oh, do you want to do the written ones?
Oh, wait a minute, we've got, go ahead and read what we
Okay,
have.
do you want me?
Yes, sure.
Okay, presentation from the residents of German Alley, Mountain, and Cliff Street. We, the residents whose homes border Cliff and German Alley in the town of Eureka Springs, Arkansas, write to request that 2 main thoroughfares of our little niche of the neighborhood be designated as one-way streets. This request is made due to the substantial increase in heavy out-of-town traffic with the addition of delivery trucks, shuttles, and oversized vehicles being directed by GPS to guide them to their destinations. GPS does not know that this is a back way through town, which is used primarily by locals. Times have changed. Many of these misguided folks stop at German and Cliff to ask the residents is this the right way to the Crescent Hotel? This excess traffic is causing road blockages many times daily. During a weekday night, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it may be 3 or 4 times every couple of hours, but on Thursday through Sunday, it's easily 3 to 4 times every 15 minutes. Please realize that while we have many driving tourists, we also have many of us who use our streets to descend from the upper lodgings located above our neighborhoods. These folks need a safe, ample pathway to walk down to the footpath that leads to town. However, when our residents and tourists are walking, they are being forced off the road into chigger grass and unstable rocky shoulders of the road. When these vehicles come at each other head-on, one is forced to back up or attempt to pull off into the shoulder of the road. I have witnessed road rage and seen fear in many of these people, wondering where the heck their GPS has taken them. Most are backing up into the gravel driveways and then peeling out and slinging gravel in all directions. We have to constantly rake and pack our gravel back in place to maintain the integrity of our driveways. I've had the city maintenance crew come out and add gravel to the city property that connects to my driveway and create an asphalt berm on 2 different occasions. Both berms were flattened within a day by heavy traffic. Cliff Street is being degraded to the point of newly developing potholes over the lower part of Cliff, and the edge of the asphalt is crumbling away. Also, a new water source has appeared. As residents, we have redirected the water flow so it's no longer flowing into the center of the dip, but continued weight of the excess traffic will continue to slowly collapse the lowest part of the street. By the way, please note that all the stonework under this bridge on Cliff was hand-constructed and is now beginning to collapse. This stonework is one of the finest examples of the bridge tunnel work that exists in our town. Some of us have put our own traffic signs to try and slow down traffic. We request that the city put up to a 10-mile-an-hour traffic sign designated the one-way street of Cliff to flow down south from Bridge Street to Mountain Street. All our mailboxes are fixed on the side of the road. That would allow traffic to flow this way. Importantly, the traffic coming down German Alley to Cliff Street tends to misjudge the turn ratio, and vehicles are running off the road into the ditch at the corner of German Alley and Cliff. The traffic coming down German Alley does not realize the degree of the slope, making it hard for them to stop and check traffic coming both ways until they are in the middle of the intersection. When two vehicles meet at this intersection, it is several-minute ordeal until two can figure out what to do next and eventually must turn and/or back up several feet into the driveways. Surely it is just a matter of time before there is a two-car crash or a car coming down German Alley hits the home straight ahead in its path. Also within the last year, semi-truck traffic has increased. They are usually coming down German Alley, turning onto Cliff. The turn ratio is too tight to accommodate these larger trucks, causing them to scrape the porches and rock walls, knocking down tree limbs, jumping the curb, and coming within inches of the actual house. It's a miracle that one of these vendor trucks or semi-trucks haven't jackknifed into the houses at the corner of German Alley and Cliff Street. And most importantly, there is the new brew pub in the making on Center Street at the old Perkins Mill. We realize that people leaving the pub will also follow their GPS straight down German Alley and inevitably into the ditches and possibly our homes. We respectfully and need the City of Eureka Springs to address these concerns. In summary, our changes requests include designate Cliff one-way down south from the intersection of Bridge Street to Mountain Street, designate German Alley one-way up west from Cliff Street to Center Street, Cushing Street, enforce the speed limit 10 miles an hour on Cliff Street. Below are each resident and homeowner's signature and addresses requesting these changes be implemented. Sincerely, Melissa Sunshine and the residents of this very special neck of the woods. Melissa Sunshine, homeowner at 5 Cliff Street. Bart Battle, homeowner at 1 German Alley. Larry Evans, residents. Susie Allen, homeowner, 11 Cliff. Tracy Milsheimer, homeowner, 14 Cliff. Nellie R. Clark. Belen, a new tenant at 14 Cliff. David Larry, 17 Cliff tenant. Lucilla Garrett, 17 Cliff Street owner. Tyler Palmer, 12 Cliff Street tenant. Susie Allen, property owner, 12 Cliff Street. Pat Masukas, per phone, out of town.
I think we have one other
Yeah.
public comments. We're going to talk about that.
Yeah. Do you want that one read?
Lord joking, read it.
Okay.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Dear City Council members, I am writing to support the Planning Commission in its bid to ban new tourist lodgings in R2 and R3 districts in Eureka Springs. When we worked to ban tourist lodgings in R1 in the 1990s, activists tried to include all residential zones, which in my view should have been done at the time. The same reasoning then holds true now. Residents invest in a residential neighborhood expecting the peace, amenities, and predictability of a residential zone. This is especially important in a tourist town where we need a backstage to the onstage parts of town. When residential property is used or converted to commercial use, the residents are cheated out of their investment expectations. Commercial property owners are cheated out of a potential sale of their commercial property, as it is cheaper to convert or use residential property. Thank you for your attention to this vote and your service to our city. Sincerely, Gwen Bennett.
All right. Do we have anything else on public comments? No?
Yep. Okay.
So yes?
There's a
Yes,
list.
there's a list.
This is about the dimensions of Cliff Street. My name is Melissa Sunshine.
Please speak into the
Get
microphone
closer
so
to
we
the
can hear
mic.
you.
Pull it closer to you.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So Larry Evans and I measured the width of the street today, and we went all the way up to the north end and found a maximum width of 11 feet 4 inches. And then on the southern end, it's 12 feet 10 inches. And where the bridge is, it's 12 feet 6 inches. So I did a little research and found that 20 feet is accepted as the minimum width for two-way traffic. And for example, I have a Chevy van, which is typical of the type of traffic that we're seeing on Cliff Street, the big trucks, vans. And I measured the outer passage tire to the edge of the driver's side mirror is 6 feet 6 inches. So two vehicles of similar size, that would total 13 feet. So therefore, there's no way to pass 12 feet 10 inches of roadway, much less 11 feet 4 inches. And then I also did a little research and found that the appropriate one-lane width is 10 to 12 feet, which is actually the category that our street fits in. So, thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Tracy Melsheimer. I'm here to ask the City Council to consider making German Alley and Cliff Street one-way streets. I actually measured German Alley today, and it was under 11 feet across. I don't want to repeat, I guess, everything that Ms. Green said, but I do want to point out that I know it's going to inconvenience some locals who use these streets, and some people who are sitting right in front of me. But no one is going to be more inconvenienced than the people who signed that petition. That's how important we think this is. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Susie Allen, and I live at 11 Cliff Street and also own the property at 12 Cliff. I would like to address the safety issues of German Alley and Cliff Street. Neither street is wide enough for two-way traffic to pass on one another without pulling off the road into a driveway or dropping into the ditch. Both of these properties sit right on the streets with only 2.5 foot wide, 2.5 foot deep ditch drop off of the road, or a 6.5 inch high, 6 inch wide curb to protect tourists, walking tourists, and or the properties from being hit by a vehicle. When I first moved here, this was not a big issue, as only a few locals knew the roads existed. Within the past 5 years, GPS has sent many tourists, vendor trucks, and even semis up Mountain Street to Cliff and up on German Alley to Center and Spring Street. And the opposite when returning from the Loop, Spring Street, or Center Street, back down to Main, driving them down German Alley and Cliff Street. At a minimum, German Alley should only be one way up from Cliff Street to Center Street. This is the safest direction, especially in the winter, when cars driven by both tourists and locals try to come down German Alley. They invariably end up in the ditch or at my porch railing, or even possibly could careen on down the street to hit the neighbor or Main Street. If the cars were only going up German Alley, they would not be able to get the momentum to continue more than a few feet. But coming down, they gain speed, then slide when they apply their brakes to turn on Cliff Street, having absolutely no control. Or, as an alternative, completely block off German Alley and turn it into a walking path from the driveway of one German Alley down to Cliff Street. If Cliff was a one-way, it would also make the intersection of Cliff Street and German Alley much safer. As it is, there are many instances where there are near misses with head-ons. There is only room for one car at a time, no matter what direction they are going, to make a turn at that intersection. Sometimes on the weekends, there are 2 and 3 cars in line on both sides of Cliff Street waiting to go up or down German Alley. Everyone trying to back up and find a place to get out of the way. Add the pedestrians who are also trying to find a safe place to get out of the way, and you have a very dangerous situation, especially at night when there is without sufficient light to see the roads. Thank you for hearing our petition and for considering solutions to help make this a safe town for drivers, pedestrians, and residents. Thank you.
Oh. Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you so much for listening to all of us and our complaints. But since I forgot my piece of paper, I'm just going to tell you what happened. Since I live on 25 Cliff Street, I've went outside several times to get firewood, got hit almost twice by a car flying by, since I live right on the street. Or if two cars meet each other in front of my house and cars have to back up into my parking place, my car already got hit almost several times. And anyways, I would love to see Cliff Street. It would make me very happy if you cannot make it a one-way street. At least consider the idea putting up speed bumps. That would hopefully slow a lot of people down, because I've hit quite a few speed bumps on East Mountain, and if you don't slow down, boy, it shakes the hell out of your car. So the speed bump would really be a great idea, because when a few years ago I had a sewage issue and the city had to cut my 2 feet of my street away. So that narrows Cliff Street like crazy. But if you would consider speed bumps, it would really make me very happy. It shouldn't cost that much money either, or widen the road. But that is not possible either, I bet you. Whatever is the best way to do it to help us. Thank you. I'm done.
Hello, I'm Rick Delaney. I live at 2 Charles Circle in the beautiful Pines subdivision. First, I would like to thank the Planning Commission, because I know you're going to vote later on a change to the ordinance for residential R1, R2, R3 guest housing. I appreciate what the Planning Commission has done with our community to help get this right. So I hope you guys will give us a positive vote on that tonight. Unfortunately, that's not going to solve all our problems in the Pines subdivision. We've got some things going on there that are code enforcement issues, and that's what it boils down to. I mean, it's not something that you're going to be able to stop by putting up a speed trap on Oak Ridge or anything like that, but just some observation about what's going on in our neighborhood. And I think that someone else is going to speak about the specific property, but I do look at it as a code enforcement issue. I think that we depend on you guys to make sure that the codes, especially for temporary housing and overnight stays, are handled in the right way. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Hello, City Council, and I'd like to first acknowledge all of the participants of our Pines Edition that came out to hear and to support the Planning Commission's endeavor of a new ordinance.
Please say your name.
My name is Melinda Large, and I am in the Pines Edition. Again, we have over 10 members of the Pines Edition here tonight to stand forward on passing this ordinance. Thank you. I want to first step back and again say thank you to the planning for taking our matter very serious and listening to the citizens' concerns that we had about this in our community. The second point is ordinances, as they are written, provide a legal form to deal with general welfare and safety of our city and our citizens. Enforcement or lack of enforcement demonstrates a city's leadership commitment to uphold city laws to maintain safety, zoning, general citizen welfare. We are respectfully requesting the City Council to approve the proposed ordinance of no tourist residential in R2 and R3. We thank you for listening. Thank you for taking us serious. Have a nice evening.
My name is Doug Bishop, 126 Oak Ridge. It's been said before, but we do have an enforcement issue. You can drive down Oak Ridge right now, and I'll guarantee you'll see at least 3 violations that our enforcement officer seems to turn his head and look the other way. Everything from building stuff with no permits, sewage dump illegally 5 feet from the road for an RV trailer, which somebody lives in half the time. Another one up on East Mountain and Harvey, somebody living in a travel trailer. We have all these ordinances, but until somebody enforces anything, you're missing out on fines, you're missing out on taxes, and we're having to deal with it. If it's next to your house, something would get done.
All right, I guess that concludes the city public hearing, or public comments. All right, that brings us up to unfinished business. If I can get a motion to discuss ordinance 2309, amending the bed and breakfast.
I make a motion that we discuss ordinance 2309.
Second.
Okay. Got a motion to discuss and read. Second. All in favor? Oh, wait a minute, discussion? All right. Mr. McClung?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we suspend the rules and read ordinance number 2309 by title only for its third and final reading.
Second.
I got a motion to read ordinance 2309 on its third and final reading. Got a motion and second by Ms. Green. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying, whoops, we need that vote vote. Okay.
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Ott?
Aye.
Mr. Meyer?
Yes.
Ms. Molay?
Yes.
Mr. McClung?
Yes.
5-0. Ordinance 2309, an ordinance amending Title 14 of the Eureka Springs, Arkansas Municipal Code regarding bed and breakfast.
Get a motion to approve the ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Ott made a motion to approve ordinance 2309 on its final reading, and Ms. Smoley second. Any discussion?
Mr. McClung?
Yes.
Mr. Meyer?
Yes.
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Ott?
Aye.
Ms. Molay?
Yes.
5-0.
Make a motion that we pass ordinance 2309?
It's done.
Yeah,
It's done, that's it. Okay, cool.
All right. that
Want to
brings
make sure?
Up to our next business is the ordinance for the new lease at 4 Kings Highway. Get a motion to discuss.
I move that we discuss ordinance for new lease at 4 Kings Highway.
Get a second.
Second.
Mr. Green made a motion, Mr. McClung seconded. Ms. Green?
I move to give the ordinance a number and read it.
Okay, got a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Ott seconded. Discussion? Mr. McClung?
I think it's important that we encourage the property owner, even though I'm sure that this will pass in flying colors, that we encourage the property owner to come before us in the process and get this property vacated to alleviate this problem for the future. Needs to be simplified.
Mr. Meyer?
Yeah, it's been going on for 100 years, so it's probably time.
I'd say so.
Further discussion? Mr. Smalley?
I know that we do a lot of these leases of very small amounts of lands with a variety of property owners, business and private. If it is, there should be a long-term look at this, and I agree with Mr. McClung that we should be encouraging the properties to be vacated or otherwise dealt with on a permanent basis, so we are not continually bringing things like this up. But looking at it as a lease, 25 years, that's $4 a year. And I'm sure this is a tiny piece of land, but it also just causes me concern that if this is something that needs to be leased instead of purchased, there should be greater value to it. I'm willing to say I don't know enough about it. I haven't researched it yet, but that's one of the first things that came to mind is how little we are getting in exchange for this. Just for the amount of paperwork our staff does, it doesn't even cover it.
May I comment?
Mr. McClung?
This property would have absolutely no value to anyone else. I mean, it's street, alley, that's what it is, that are, they haven't been vacated, and they need to be.
I agree.
And so so it's not, I mean, it really has intrinsic value only to that property owner, truly.
If I may respond?
Yes.
Since they're usually alleys, like you say, I'm thinking green space or trails. Are there any other interests in it?
It goes nowhere.
Okay, thank you. That's
Any further
good to
discussion?
know.
I got a motion and discussion to,
The property owner's here too.
well, I mean, this really isn't a discussion. I mean, right now, we're in the process of voting on it, so unless the council wants to, it's up to the council. You want to hear what,
Mr. May,
Mr. Meyer?
I make a motion, we assign this ordinance a number. and
It's already
read it
been
for
done.
passage.
All right, sir?
It's already been, that part's already been done.
It's already been done,
We're ready to vote.
and let's vote.
All right, all those in favor of signing this an ordinance number and reading it for the first time, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved.
The ordinance number will be 2310, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute and deliver a 25-year lease for a portion of Ojo as platted and an unnamed alley lying in the Freeman addition. Whereas the City Council of the City of Eureka Springs passed an ordinance on October 8, 1991, renewing a lease on a portion of Ojo Street as platted to Kenneth N. Davis and Deborah A. Davis, husband and wife, for a period of 25 years. And whereas James B. Richardson and Tara Richardson, husband and wife, are the successors in interest to said lease, and they are desirous of extending the lease. And whereas it is by the City Council of Eureka Springs believed to be in the best interest of the public and expedient for the benefit of the City of Eureka Springs, Arkansas, and whereas the said James B. Richardson and Tara Richardson, husband and wife, have agreed to pay the city a sum of $100 as consideration for the lease. Now therefore, the City Council of the City of Eureka Springs does hereby authorize the mayor to execute a lease for the following described real property for a period of 25 years to James B. and Tara Richardson, husband and wife, upon payment by them to the City of Eureka Springs of the sum of $100. The real property which is the subject of the lease is described as follows. That portion of Ojo Street as platted, lying west of lots 16 and 17, block 91 of the Riley and Armstrong survey, to the city of Eureka Springs, more particularly described as commencing at the southwest corner of Lot 17, thence in a westerly direction, extending the lot line between Lot 17 and 18 to a point where the line intersects the east lot line of Lot 4, Block 1, Freeman Addition. Thence following the lot line of said Lot 4 in a northerly direction to the northeast corner of said Lot 4, Block 1, Freeman Addition. Thence following the north line of said Lot 4 in a westerly direction to a point where the said lot line intersects the east right-of-way of Kings Highway. Thence in a northeasterly direction, following the said east right-of-way of Kings Highway to a point where said line intersects the south lot line of Lot 1, Block 1, Freeman Addition, thence following the said south line of said Lot 1 in an easterly direction to the southeast corner of said Lot 1, thence to the northeast corner of Lot 16, Block 91 of the Riley and Armstrong survey, then south along the west line of Lot 16, 17 to a point of beginning, being all of Ojo Street lying between Lot 4, Block 1, Freeman Addition, and Lot 16 and 17, Block 91, Riley and Armstrong survey, and the part of the unnamed alley lying between Lots 1 and 4, Block 1, Freeman Addition, lying east of Kings Highway and west of Lot 16, Block 91. Section 1. The lease shall be subject to all utility easements as may be desired or needed by the city during the lease. The above described property is not needed or presently used by the public for street purposes, and the portion of Ojo Street was previously leased by Ordinance number 414 dated January 28, 1907, and the Ordinance 1457 dated October 8, 1991. All ordinances or resolutions or parts thereof in conflict with any of this ordinance are hereby repealed to the extent of the conflict. In the event any one or more of the provisions contained in this ordinance shall for any reason be held by a court of competent jurisdiction to be invalid, illegal, or unenforceable, such invalidity, illegality, or unenforceability shall not affect the remaining provisions of this ordinance, and this ordinance shall be construed as if such invalid, illegal, or unenforceable provision or provisions had never been contained herein.
All right. Get a motion to approve ordinance number 2310 on its first reading.
I move to approve for the first reading.
Mr. Green moved. Second?
Second.
Is that Mr. Ott? Okay. Motion by Mr. Green, second by Mr. Ott to approve ordinance 2310 on its first reading. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's so moved.
Now may the owner speak?
Oh, does the owner want to?
Mr. Owner? Yes, sir. Sir?
Yes, can I request that,
We can't hear you. You're going to have to speak up or...
may I request that all three readings be done today? We have a closing that is pending this outcome at the end of the week.
Okay.
So-
He's requesting it to be
Yeah.
read 3 times.
That's why I was
Okay.
raising my hand.
Mr. Green?
I move to suspend the rules and place ordinance 2310 on its second reading by title only.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. McClung?
I'm not opposed to doing it. However, this is the kind of thing that should not come before us for this kind of deal. I mean, it should have been done a long time ago in order to get this process instead of after the lease has already expired. So, I don't know who dropped the ball on it. If it's the city's responsibility to see about lease renewals or if it's the property owner to see about lease renewals, but it is definitely the property owner's responsibility to give clear title. And so they should know ahead of time what their situation should be. And so, I just hate for this kind of stuff to come up. It's just not necessary.
Further discussion? I think there was a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right.
Mr. Ott?
Aye.
Mr. McClung?
Yes?
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Ms. Molay?
Yes.
Mr. Meyer?
Yes.
5-0. Ordinance 2310, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute and deliver a 25-year lease for a portion of Ojo Street as platted and an unnamed alley lying in the Freeman addition.
Ms. Green?
I move to approve on the second reading.
Second.
Okay, Ms. Green made a motion and Mr. Ott seconded to approve ordinance 2310 on second reading. Any further discussion? Hearing none.
Voice is okay?
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ms. Green?
I move to suspend the rules and place ordinance 2310 and its third reading by title only.
Okay.
I'll second.
Mr. Green made a motion, Mr. Myers second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Ott?
Aye.
Mr. McClung?
Yes.
Ms. Molay?
Yes.
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Meyer?
Yes.
5-0. Ordinance number 2310, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute and deliver a 25-year lease for a portion of Ojo Street as platted and an unnamed alley lying in the Freeman addition.
Ms. Green?
I move to approve on the third reading.
Second.
Ms. Green made a motion to approve 2310 on third reading. Mr. Ott seconded. Discussion? Hearing none.
Mr. Meyer?
Yes.
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Ott?
Aye.
Ms. Molay?
Yes.
Mr. McClung?
Yes.
5-0.
Okay.
Emergency clause?
Ms. Green?
I move to invoke the emergency clause and read it.
Second.
Okay, got a motion to remove the emergency clause and read it. Any discussion?
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Ott?
Aye.
Mr. Meyer?
Yes.
Ms. Molay?
Yes.
Mr. McClung?
Yes.
5-0. Emergency clause. Since it is necessary to have clear title for the pending September 30, 2021 property sale, and for the preservation of public peace, health, and safety, an emergency is hereby declared to exist, and this ordinance shall take effect and be enforced after its passage and approval.
All right. Done deal, sir.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us up to our motion for discussion for the resolution for the mid-year budget adjustment.
I'll make a motion to discuss.
Second.
All right, motion made and discussed. Any comments? We did have the meeting before this meeting for the mid-year budget review and presentation by our finance director. Any comments?
I was paying attention by Z's.
No, sorry. All right, get a motion to approve, to read, sign this number and read for approval.
So move.
Second.
Mr. Ott made the motion and Ms. Smoley
Yes.
made the second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so moved.
The resolution number will be 800. A resolution amending the adopted 2021 budget for the city of Eureka Springs, Arkansas, as a result of the mid-year budget review process. Whereas, in the opinion of the City Council, the 2021 fiscal budget should be amended to reflect the following changes in both revenue and expenditure budgetary amounts as set forth hereafter. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Eureka Springs, Arkansas. Section 1. This resolution shall be known as the 2021 mid-year budget resolution for the City of Eureka Springs, Arkansas for the 12-month period beginning January 1, 2021 and ending December 31, 2021. And the attached documents present revisions to estimates for revenues and expenditures for the period. All revenues and appropriations are based on estimated revenues, and all estimates are subject to change during the budgetary period. Section 2. The amounts for revenues and expenditures proposed in this 2021 mid-year amended budget are hereby authorized and appropriated for the purposes set forth in the calendar year ending December 31, 2021. 2021 budget amendments are attached.
Thank you all. All right, that brings us up to discussion Cliff Street residents about traffic. Mr. Meyer and Mr. Green.
Motion to discuss the Cliff
Second.
Street.
Okay. Ms. Green?
Do we not pass this on to planning, or can we do something at the table?
What I would suggest, and I think the comments that was made and suggestions are pretty valid, I'd like to run this by the department heads to make sure they don't have a problem, and then bring it back to the council, either ordinance form or recommendations on amendments.
Well, I'll make a motion that we allow the mayor to get with the department heads and then bring it back for an ordinance.
Okay.
I think it's pretty important. I know pedestrians that are walking down German Alley going home, if there's a big dually truck that comes up German Alley, there's no place for you to go. You've got to get into the ditch. So the least amount of traffic that we can have on those two streets, the safer it's going to be for everyone involved.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Ott?
to help expedite this, after you check with the department heads, can you go to our city attorney and have an ordinance be drawn up so the next time we meet, we could have that ordinance to discuss and vote on?
Well, it depends on, let me work with, that's one solution if that, everything works out perfect.
I mean, you don't need to come back to us and then us send it to the city attorney.
No, but if there's changes or if the department head brings up something that I think the council needs to be aware of, or if something doesn't seem to work out according to that, what was presented by the citizens, and I'd certainly want to come back to the council.
Okay, because I
And
just stated
present the problems, or not the problems, but the issues that are coming up.
if there's not any, it would be possible then for you to have an ordinance drawn up. So the next time it's brought before us, we could have an ordinance for it.
I think that's kind of what I said at the very beginning.
Okay?
Yeah. Ms. Smalley?
In addition, if the mayor would also discuss with the department heads widening that road to a uniform 12 feet wide, both of the roads.
Beg your pardon?
To widen both roads to 12 feet wide.
Sometimes that's not always possible.
I don't think it's
You have to tear the houses down.
Yeah, well, we got some structural issues there, so I don't think I think we're lucky we got what we've got sometimes. So some of our streets don't even have 11 feet.
Yeah.
Top of Pine Street.
Mr. McClung?
It doesn't really require an ordinance, does it, to make a one-way street?
Actually, I think it does.
That does?
Mr. Weaver? I mean, well,
It's-
no, I don't know
it
whether
should.
it does on one, I believe it does, though.
Yeah, it should.
Okay, so whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Very good.
I think I mentioned it, Mr. Weaver, how we'd done before with Armstrong.
Yes.
I think that was done by ordinance. So, all right, I'll go ahead and see what we can get done on that. I think that the citizens came up with some good solutions, for sure. And as somebody mentioned, I do travel that street a lot myself, so I certainly understand the issues there. All right, any further comments? If not, when we get up to our next ordinance to amend the tourist lodging in R2 and R3. Get a motion to discuss?
Motion to discuss
Second.
ordinance to amend tourist lodging for R2 and R3.
Okay, got a motion to discuss. I think our planning commission and planning director is here. Kylie, I'm not even going to try to, would you like to present your thoughts?
My name is Kylie Heverdes, and I'm the city planner. So I provided you all with some graphics to illustrate the data that the Planning Commission was working with as they worked through the tourist lodging problem. And I wanted to give that same data to you so you can review it and also to provide points for discussion. We know that there are obvious impacts of tourist lodging that are both positive and negative, including potential revenue streams for owners, reducing lodging prices for travelers and increase tourism and tax revenue for the city. However, the potential costs also have wide-ranging impacts that affect more than just the property owner and potential traveler. If you look at the graphic entitled Lodging Inventory, it has a blue chart. This is the data that I provided to the Planning Commission to help them understand the market supply of lodging. So we worked to separate the lodging inventory into 4 types. Bed and breakfasts are their own use category, and then we further separated tourist lodging into hotels, motels, and other tourist lodging operations, which includes overnight lodging and vacation rentals in condos, homes, and ancillary structures. We got this from business license data and data that was available on individual business websites to illustrate the lodging capacity on the low end and the high end, as well as the overall number of units. We found that combining all of these different types of tourist lodging creates a capacity or number of people served or heads and beds of between 2,956 and 7,514. And the same data reveals that the number of lodging units ranges between 1,405 and 2,178. Planning Commission took this to indicate that there's not a shortage of lodging options on the market, and they specifically wanted to look at this other category of tourist lodging to understand the impacts of housing in the city. So if you turn to the overall STR, that means short-term rental data. This is information that was provided to us by a company called Granicus, and they sweep online vacation rental websites and show that within the city there are 476 listings, which represent 299 unique rental units or properties, and 83% of these are in single-family homes, and additionally 83% of these list the entire home on that rental ad. This means that 248 homes are off-market and unavailable for Eureka Springs citizens. To further illustrate really what the meat of this argument is in regards to tourist lodging, there's an article entitled An Open Letter to Airbnb by Jared Brock, and he writes, "To be clear, renting out spare rooms, attics, basements, and backyards in owner-occupied properties isn't the problem. It's when an investor outbids a family for a second property and turns it into a full-time Airbnb, or worse, when a holiday rental company does so, or worse." And he goes on and on to illustrate the snowball effect that results in a housing crisis. And we can see that happening in Eureka Springs. If you look at the housing data in Eureka Springs, we're ranked 3rd in Carroll County for the number of housing units at 1,306. In reality, only a little over 1,000 are available on the market. That's not including second homes that are occupied seasonally. And this is taken to illustrate further this housing crisis as workers can't find housing. And when it is available, the prices are artificially inflated due to a perception of these properties being income producing. The household income and individual income further shows that Eureka Springs, despite being the top economic producer in the county, has the lowest income statistics, ranking 4th. So based on this data and a few studies that have looked specifically at Airbnb, Vrbo, and other online marketing platforms, we know that there's a measurable effect on long-term housing supply and prices because of the influx of tourist lodging in residential zones and homes. So I can give you additional information on that if you're interested, but overall this data shows that there's not a lodging shortage in town, but there are documented residential and economic impacts that are damaging to the health, safety, and well-being of citizens. So that's the data that planning was provided, and I'll pass this off to our chair, Ann Salee, unless someone has questions for me.
I do.
Mr. McClung?
Thank you very much, and I appreciate this information, but I'm not sure I'm real clear on this. In that overall STR data, there's 476 listings, and I assume that's single-family residences, or is that rental units collectively? I'm not sure what.
So the 476 listings are across all online marketing platforms. So there are 476 listings. They could be duplicates across Airbnb, Vrbo, Facebook Marketplace, anywhere else that people would be advertising.
And that's inside the city limits of Eureka Springs?
Yes.
Then tell me again what the 299, that's individual single houses for rent nightly in Eureka Springs?
Those are the unique listings, so unique rental units.
I find that hard to believe. I find that really hard to believe.
Oh, I don't. Oh,
Ms. Green?
Terry, almost 30% of our community is commercial, and I'm kind of like agreeing with Kylie. North Main used to be residential. I think there's 2 residential houses there. The rest are all nightly.
North Main is commercial.
Right. But
So
that's
it
what
can
I'm
do
saying.
whatever it wants, but I mean, there's.
But this is what she's saying. This is even in commercial.
But even still, 299 units, single-family homes?
Go look on.
This doesn't, the 299 is not explicitly single-family homes. This could be condos, apartments.
It says these are single-family homes.
It's 83% of the total. So 83% of that 299 are single-family homes.
Okay, so that's 240 of them.
Yes, 248.
Yeah, that's, I still find that very hard to believe. I mean, how many have we got permitted?
Less than that.
Yeah, I'll bet the CAPC doesn't collect taxes from a dozen.
Mr. McClung, as she mentioned, some of these are along Main Street, Spring Street that are commercial zones. So.
Even still, they collect tax on them.
Yeah.
They do.
They do.
So, you know, if they're permitted, then the CAPC has record of it. So you can ask the CAPC, how many single-family homes do you collect tax from?
They do not actually have that information. They do remit tax through Airbnb, but other platforms don't necessarily have an agreement with the city.
And therein lies our problem. And I'm glad we have the moratorium that we have, so we can work through this. But, you know, an ordinance is premature at this time, I think, until we figure out a way where we can see what other communities do and how we can effectively regulate it. I mean, truly, if you can pass all the ordinances if you want, but if people are going to go on and continue and to behave above the law, so to speak, then, you know, what do you do? Now, so the problem is, it's just kind of similar in my mind, and it's more complicated, I think, but just like with the taxis and what's the ones that come along that...
Limousine?
Huh?
Limos?
No, the Uber. Yeah, I mean, you know, we have the taxi franchises, and that, you know, supposedly limits that kind of service, but Uber's come to town and they operate and we can't do anything about it. So, you know, I think we need to be sure that we're on solid ground whenever the ordinance comes, that we can truly, you know, resolve the problem. If we have an ordinance, then we want to be able to enforce whatever we choose to do. And that's the problem.
Mr. Meyer?
Well, how many CUPs do we have on the books?
There are actually very few. I believe that in the ordinance proposal, that Appendix A at the very end, that is the complete number of CUPs for tourist lodging in residential zones.
R2 and R3.
So that's
Not
it.
R2 and R3, yeah, okay. I guess Ann can probably answer this, or maybe the mayor, I don't know. How often do we have a reported illegal nightly rental?
We have, I hear things about suspected nightly rentals weekly, I would say. The challenge with that is the burden of proof and
True.
how you prove that they're operating an illegal tourist rental, unless you have an Airbnb listing or something like that as evidence.
Right. And it'd probably be a full-time job for someone, just tracking those down.
Yeah.
I do know of 2 or 3 here that got shut down, and their houses now empty and for sale, so there is some progress in that.
Ms. Green?
Well, it's hard to find them. I know, Kylie, you go through Verbo and Airbnb, but there's what we call ghosting, where there's people that have like managements that don't have them on a website, but when you call, oh, well, we've got another one and I can send you pictures. They can be advertised, like let's say someone has a second home in Tulsa, they can advertise it in a paper there. There's a multitude. There's one I'm pretty sure is going on in my neighborhood right now. It just, you're correct. I think when we make an ordinance like this, I think it makes it easier to enforce. I think a few years ago I would not have been in favor of this, but there's no longer a need for them. Like I said, we're almost 30% commercial. If someone wants a nightly lodging, there's plenty of commercial property out there to have a nightly lodging, and to take away residential. And as I've said before, in R1, which is the historic district, 2001, they took it out as a use, and there was a reason for it. One was everybody wanted to put one in. There were no more homes. In R2 and R3, those are areas where, and Laura Covington's husband said it right, when you move into the historic district, you know what you're getting, and that's why I live there. I enjoy it, but the people that are in R2 and R3, they want the quieter neighborhoods. That's why they moved there, or they'd be living next door to me. And so I think it's become a real problem, and they, like our Cliff Street people, they have come and they have asked us to please, please, please do something about this. And I appreciate, this is a good ordinance, Kylie, thank you. So I'm going to move to give the ordinance a number and read it.
I'll second that.
Okay, we've got a motion to, by Mr. Green, to give it a number and read it, and second by Mr. Myers. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved.
The ordinance number will be 2311, an ordinance prohibiting tourist lodging in properties located within any residential zone, and amending Chapter 14, zoning, of the Eureka Springs Municipal Code to redefine tourist lodging. Whereas the City Council of Eureka Springs, Arkansas, upon recommendation of the Planning Commission, and after careful consideration, has determined that Chapter 14, zoning, of the Eureka Springs Municipal Code should be amended, and whereas the City Council, having determined that tourist lodging is an incompatible and inconsistent use in R2 contemporary residential and R3 multiple family residential zones, and whereas the City Council, having determined that said amendment is in the best interest of the health, welfare, and safety of the citizens and guests of the City of Eureka Springs, because it will assist in the protection of residential neighborhoods and will further the city's master plan. Now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Eureka Springs, Arkansas, that Section 1, henceforth it shall be a misdemeanor to rent property as tourist lodging within any residential zone within the City of Eureka Springs, punishable by a fine of up to $250 for each offense. Each day of any tourist lodging rental shall be considered a separate offense. Section 2, Chapter 14, Zoning, Section 14.08.01, shall be amended to reflect the following. Restrictions in R1 Victorian Residential. D, legal non-conforming buildings. Bed and breakfast. 6 Douglas, 7 Kings Highway, 5 Ridgeway. 211 Spring Street has been pulled off the list. 5 Summit, 23 Hillside, 104 Wall Street, 11 Singleton, and 263 Spring Street. Tourist lodging, 27 Elk, 75 Lookout Lane, 25 Pine, 247 Spring Street, 1 Kings Highway, 21 Nut, 3 Prospect, and 256 Spring Street. E, existing conditional uses for tourist lodging. This will be added to code, what's in italics. 2 Armstrong, 22 Hale, 24 Hale, 14 Nut, 310 Spring, 2 Hillside, 2 Kansas, 26 Mill Hollow, and 50 Wall Street. Section 3, Chapter 14, Zoning, Section 14.0801, restrictions in R2, contemporary residential. C, conditional uses. The following list is conditional uses in the R2 contemporary residential district. These uses require a conditional use permit, also known as a CUP. Bed and breakfast, boarding house, building used for religious services, community service center, daycare, small and large, education, healthcare provider, wedding establishment, dwelling multifamily. Tourist lodging will come off. Home occupation requiring access by the general public. That is from Ordinance 2236, Section 4, passed in February of 2016. This will come off of, legal non-conforming buildings will come out of code. Weekly rentals, only those operating prior to July 2013 are permitted. At that time, all weekly rentals were in R1. This is from Ordinance number 2184, Appendix D. This language would be added. Tourist lodging. Restriction of tourist lodging in District R2 Contemporary Residential is not intended to, nor shall it apply to, any existing permitted conditional use activity where a permit is requested for an existing activity due to change in ownership. This list would also be added. D, existing conditional uses. Tourist lodging, 17 Breezy Point, 2 Grand Avenue, 145A Mill Hollow, 29 Pivot Rock Road, 10 Woolridge, 4 College Street, 187 Huntsville Road, 20 Pivot Rock Road, and 1 Richards Circle. Section 4, Chapter 14, Zoning, Section 14.08.01, restrictions in R3 multiple family residential. This is in code presently. Conditional uses. The following is a list of conditional uses in R3 multiple family residential district. These uses require a conditional use permit, also known as a CUP. Bed and breakfast, daycare small and large, office small, retail small, boarding house, building used for religious services, healthcare provider, restaurant, no drive-through. Tourist lodging would come off of the list. Would remain personal services and wedding establishments, home occupations involving access by the general public. The phrase legal non-conforming buildings would come out. Weekly rentals, only those operating prior to January 2013 are permitted. At that time, all weekly rentals were in R1. This language would be added. Tourist lodging, only those operating prior to September 2021 are permitted. At that time, all tourist lodgings were in R1 and R2. Section 5, Chapter 14, Zoning, Section 14.08.13, definitions shall be amended to change the definition of tourist lodging to tourist lodging, dwelling in which sleeping accommodations are furnished to transient guests on a short-term basis, whether by compensation or other exchange of goods or services. Section 6, Chapter 14, Zoning, Section 14.08.13 of the Eureka Springs Municipal Code shall be amended to add rental short-term, the rental or lease of 1, a property, or 2 or less sleeping units within a property for a period of 29 consecutive nights or less, where rental payments and taxes owed accrue on a nightly basis, or 2, a property, or 2 or less sleeping units within a property for an agreed period of time in monthly 30-day increments, where rental payments and taxes owed are due in monthly installments for a monthly rental period. It's from Arkansas Code annotated 2652-301. Also added the definition of rental long-term. The rental of residential or other property characterized by the tenant or renter signing a lease or lease agreement affording the tenant or renter an exclusive right to the use and to occupy the property to which the lease or rental agreement relates, to the exclusion of others, including the landlord, for an agreed period of time in excess of a daily or monthly rental period, and shall exclude short-term rentals. Transient guests, individuals who rent accommodations other than their regular place of abode on less than a month-to-month basis. That too is from Arkansas Code annotated 2652-301. Section 7, conditional uses existing on the effective date of this ordinance. To be considered legally operating, the tourist lodging businesses must have a current business license. Those businesses are included in Appendix A. No additions may be made to this list after the effective date of this ordinance. They shall be limited to only the use which has been in operation since before the effective date of this ordinance. No expansion of the structure shall be allowed for any legal nonconforming use under this ordinance. Any issuance of a building permit for repair, remodeling, or upkeep of any property under this ordinance with an estimated value of more than 1/2 of the total property value shall result in a revocation of the conditional use permit for the property. The property status under this ordinance may be transferable upon sale or transfer of an ownership of property, provided that the buyer follows the established procedure for conditional use permit application, including appearing before the Planning Commission in a public hearing. Section 8, all ordinances or resolutions and parts thereof in conflict herewith are hereby repealed to the extent of such conflict. Section 9, each of the provisions of this ordinance are severable, and the decision of any court having jurisdiction as to the validity of any provision shall not affect the remaining provisions.
I move to approve on the first reading.
Second?
Point.
Mr. McClung?
Does the, like in the first, I just making sure that we got it all, are these all the bed and breakfasts in town that, on this first page under Section 2?
No, those are the legal nonconforming.
Those are just the legal non-conforming?
Yes, sir.
Section
So what
2
would
has only
502
R1.
be as an example?
Section 2 is only R1, Terry.
I know, I understand.
Okay, but so it's not all bed and breakfast?
Yeah, I understand, but I mean, in R1, what is 50, Joe? Is it?
It's a cup, UP.
So it's not a non-conforming.
Right.
So
correct.
what you're calling these, the legal non-conforming buildings are grandfathered?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, all right. And then, I mean, this is just a lot to digest in the first meeting.
You're going to confuse me now.
Yeah, it is. I'm not really sure I understand, where it says D, the weekly rentals, only those operating, does that stay in? I'm not sure what that is for.
Oh, the lined out
It just-
information comes out, what's in italics goes in.
So what's
What
under
is-
D comes out, where it says weekly rentals, only those operating prior to July?
No, just D, legal non-conforming buildings. That line goes out. What's below it is in code right now. So
And
you
that
have
stays
lined out
under
that goes, you have italics that goes in, and you have standard text, which is in code presently.
Mr. Ott?
Mr. Mayor, this is just from,
Finish.
being in the industry a few years. On that section 1, and I'll yield to the city attorney on this, when it talks about the offense and the fines, you might think about changing it each day of any tourist lodging rental to each night of any tourist lodging rental, because that's how they rent them out, is by night and not by day. If you rent a Friday night, you're staying there Friday and Saturday days, but you might change the word each night of any tourist lodging rental shall be considered a separate offense.
Mr. Weaver, what say ye?
He makes a good point that technically it is rental by night. I almost would encourage the council to potentially change it to each 24-hour period or portion thereof in excess of 24 hours. And that way, it would cover those, it would give 2 offenses if someone checked in at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and didn't check out till 4 o'clock the next day.
But most people rent them by the nights. That's the whole thing. It's not, you can ask for a late checkout, and I don't think you should be in violation because you wanted to have lunch somewhere, and then, but I'm just saying.
If it's an illegal lodging.
Yeah. Well, all I'm saying is the commonality is you rent it by nights, not by days. So that would just be my thought for consideration to change that wording.
My suggestion would be to use the number of hours rather than use day or night, simply because there is no definition of day and there is no definition of night that I'm aware of in our code book.
So
24-hour period.
I'll amend my motion to, in
Just hold on just a moment before we get into that. Smoley?
Yes, since we have a moratorium in place, I'd really like maybe a small workshop day with Kylie or meeting with Kylie or something. There's just a lot of things to understand. This is really a meaty ordinance, and, nothing stands out. I'm not in opposition to any particular thing, but I just want to be sure that we're doing the most effective ordinance that we can produce.
I don't know about having a workshop. I mean, if you got questions, I think you can always welcome. I mean, this is going to be, we can vote on this. We don't have to vote all 3, certainly not all 2. It's going to take a process of over a month at least, if not 6 weeks.
Good. I just don't want to see it rushed.
May I make a comment?
Yes.
First of all, I want everybody to know that this isn't just what the Planning Commission came up with. We've had 2 or 3 workshops, and all these people sitting out here participated also.
That's wonderful. That's good.
So, I mean, yes, we're a tourist town, but we're also a community. So I feel very comfortable with the input that we got. I feel very comfortable with the research that Kylie did. My hope is that you will move forward with this.
We got 2 more meetings.
Mr. Mayor, we've got a 6-month moratorium, and we put that in purposely so we could work through this. I don't want to rush through it.
I'm not saying one thing or another.
And I don't think we're ready for the first reading. I think that she's right about the workshop idea. We need to do that.
Mr. McClung, the Planning Commission's been holding workshops. The City Council was welcome to attend all those workshops.
I think
we have an ordinance before us. I'm not opposed to the moratorium and keeping it that way for the council to review this. If you have questions, you can ask Kylie or you can ask Ann.
And I have another question right this minute.
We don't need a workshop to go through it.
I have another question right this minute, and that is, where it says, any issuance of any building permit for repair, remodeling, or upkeep for any property under this ordinance with an estimated value of more than 1/2 of the total property value shall result in a revocation of the conditional use permit for the property. Is that even legal? I don't know that you can do that.
That's-
You to repeat that? You don't know whether that's legal?
That's been in there for years, Terry.
But is that really legal?
Yes, sir. They do that with code all the time.
Okay, then that's my question. If it is, then that's good.
The building code says if you repair something over 50%, you got to bring it up to code.
I understand you got to bring it up to code. I don't know that if you can pull a permit for that.
This is considered, I think that's part of the code. Mr. Weaver, is that?
It's used throughout the industry in order to get rid of non-conforming properties. The property has to be fixed beyond a 50% level, that it is no longer in use for that type of property. And yes, it stood the test of time in court cases.
Okay. All right. Mr. Myers?
To make sure we all understand this, the changes in this, all of this is already code except for what's in italics that's added and what's stricken out. Other than that, we've had this stuff in our code book.
Mr. Ott?
So we won't let this slip by, going per what the city attorney mentioned. At this point, I would move to amend this ordinance as it sits to read each 24-hour period of any tourist lodging rental. Is that what we're saying, Mr. City Attorney?
That would be my suggestion.
Okay, I would move to amend, have a vote so we can get that in the paper, on this page. Under Section 1,
Sure.
have it say each 24-hour period of any tourist lodging rental shall be considered a separate offense.
Is that satisfactory, Mr. Weaver?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Mr. Ott made a motion to amend it. Do I have a
Second.
Is that Mr. McClung?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Any discussion on the amendment? All in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So moved. We're back on discussion or?
Call the question.
There was a motion to approve on the first
Okay.
reading.
Are we finished with the discussion? All right. There's been a motion to approve the ordinance 2311, and now be as amended. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, and Planning Commission, Kylie, and everyone. You've done a great job. Really appreciate it. I know that's good. All right, that brings us up to
Discussing number 5?
discussion for the ordinance repairing sidewalks with limited.
Yes.
Did we take that off?
It went back on.
No, we're going to keep that because Mr. Weaver's going to discuss some of the issues here.
Right.
On exterior building repairs and new construction.
Motion to discuss.
Okay, got a
Second.
motion. Okay, motion to discuss Mr. Meyer and second Ms. Green. Mr. Weaver, your floor.
I've looked at this. I've talked to our building official a couple of weeks ago. I've looked into some of the case law. I think this is particularly difficult to address in our city. As was mentioned not only a few minutes ago, we have several streets in this town that almost abut to the front porch of many people's homes. To require a sidewalk in those areas would be nearly impossible. If we say that we put a restriction, if you repair your house beyond a certain point, the amount would have to be so high in some areas to avoid us from being sued for devaluing people's property by such an ordinance, that we would basically be requiring them to build a sidewalk that costs half what their house is worth in some areas. I mean, we have cliffs, we have roads that simply, as I said, go right up against the houses. There are steep areas that could never be made ADA compliant without massive amounts of construction work. This is fraught with a lot. I mean, I understand. I love to have a sidewalk in a lot of the places I walk in town, and they're not there. But they're not there because the town wasn't built with them 100 years ago. And to go back and install them at this point is really to invite us to get sued by the property owners of several different parts of town, especially in the old sections, which is where I understood your desire was primarily to put these in the R1 and the Victorian commercial areas. And to do that, those are the parts of town that are so steep and set right up against the road, the property buildings do, that the construction of sidewalks in some cases would probably cost more than the structures are worth now. And that would devalue the value of the structure if they can't work on their property, and therefore would give them rise to a lawsuit against the city for intentionally devaluing their property. And if we intentionally devalue property, that's a taking, and a taking can be actionable in a circuit court against the city for the value of loss to the property. And we would potentially be inviting lots of lawsuits doing that, that we ultimately would stand to lose many of, and end up being forced to pay homeowners and businesses for their property or for the loss of value thereto. And so I find this very, very fraught with problems. And if you instruct me to still construct an ordinance, I will do my best. But I think it is unfortunately a disaster waiting to happen.
Mr. Weaver, I believe we already have some ordinance in here that already requires citizens to repair their sidewalks.
That is correct. And if there's a sidewalk there, repairing is less of a problem. But if there's not one already there and there's no space, or there is space and it happens to hang on a 45-degree angle going up a hill, either one of those is going to potentially run us into a real major problem. But yes, we do have ordinances that require you to maintain your sidewalks, and anyone who's not following those are subject to prosecution, subject to the building official and or other city officials from taking action.
Now, we have had for council's notification this last year, a lot of things getting blamed on COVID. That was one of the things that got blamed on COVID. But we did get also several of our sidewalks, and I think you can come up right up across the street from the old bank by the Mexican restaurant and see that's all been repaired. There's other sidewalks in town being repaired. I know Bobby Ray's got some other places have already sent letters out and they're being repaired. So this issue is being addressed. It's not quick, but it is being addressed.
It is an area that I know the code enforcement has talked to me before about, that he is attempting to, attempts very diligently to work with the property owners and see that it doesn't have to come to the ultimate of criminal prosecution, if he can avoid that, and if the city can avoid that, which is good for the citizen and good for the city. We don't have to expend time and energy in court, and they don't have to spend money defending themselves from potential fines other penalties.
Okay. Questions?
Well, of course, I would think that a business owner that has a sidewalk in front of their business that is dangerous does not help with their business, so that it should behoove them to go ahead and repair their sidewalks. Yeah, some of the residences on streets like this that have a route that lifted a chunk of sidewalk up, that might well be another stair going up the hill.
And some of the businesses too that you mentioned, I can think of a couple on Spring Street that are addressing the issue as they're getting into their other construction. So we're seeing this taken care of on there.
Yeah.
So I would like to see this taken off the agenda if that's satisfactory with the council.
You need that in the form of a motion, Mr. Mayor?
No, we just won't put it on.
We'll just drop it.
Again, no, drop it, unless there's, a problem with somebody. All right, our next is an ordinance for procedures for removing city council members.
Motion to discuss?
That'd be city commission members, not city council members?
Members of city commissions. Did I say city council?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we probably do that.
I thought you were talking about me.
That takes a court action. Oh, sorry, Mayor.
We are getting a little late tonight, aren't we?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Both of mine, slip of tongue.
We have a second?
Got a motion and a second from someone?
We don't have a second yet?
Yes,
Second.
I did.
Yeah, Mr. McClung seconded.
Thank you.
This came about, of course, for the CAPC. There are one or two other commissions, and I was trying to think of which ones they are off the top of my head. That's not all commissions. Some commissions have the ability to remove them themselves, but several of them have to, we approve, and so we have to remove also. And that's the reason for this ordinance. Ms. Green?
Tim, in section 4, could we please add, does not meet the qualifications of the seat? Because in our code, if someone moves out of the city in certain commissions, they would not be qualified. If, like the CAPC, if they can live in the county, but if they moved out of the county, they would not qualify. But also, it is required at the CAPC that they must be a general manager or an owner of a restaurant or lodging. And if they lose their job, they would not qualify.
Section 4 would be a ideal place to put that.
Okay.
Section 4 says that this is not a complete list of reasons, but that certainly is a major reason that someone would be likely to be removed, and so I would be very happy to have that added to the list.
Now,
Or meet qualification.
Would this also, and one of the things that would scare me is if someone doesn't like someone on a commission. I don't want this to ever be used, I don't like you, so I'm going to take you to the city council.
Well, if that was done, it would have to be by the commission as a whole. A whole, basically, would have to dislike the person. And then the city council would have to, a majority of 4 of the city council would have to agree. And the person would still have the fallback of then claiming that it was not for good cause, and a court of competent jurisdiction, which would be our circuit court here.
Yeah, I just don't ever...
Would be able to reinstate.
Right, I just don't ever want it to be used as a weapon.
It would be very difficult to use it as a weapon.
Does this mean that if we had 3 council members, the mayor wouldn't be able to vote?
That would, the way it is written, yes, it would. The mayor would not have a vote. It would have to be the four actual council members.
So we'd have to have 4 members present?
Yes.
In order for this to work?
Yes.
We can have a meeting of 3 plus the mayor would count as a quorum.
There are very, very few ordinances on our books that require, or state statutes that require that the mayor's vote not count to break a tie. but this
Or
would
to
be-
pass,
this-
or to pass.
or to pass it, something. This would not allow the mayor a vote in this particular instance.
Why is
So
that?
it could be a 3-2 vote and would fail.
That's correct.
What about a 3-3?
It would fail. It takes,
It would
it's
still take
mandatory
four.
that
Okay.
that at least 4 members of the body.
Okay. Okay. And is that by code, state?
It is not that I can find in code, but when I looked at similar ordinances around the state, they tend to exclude the executives' vote. So they tend to exclude the mayor or the mayor pro tem or whoever is sitting in the chair as the executive.
Mr. Ott?
Does this apply even to, the CAPC is said to be autonomous? Will this apply to that commission, even though they aren't under the city per se?
They are still appointed through this. I mean, the recommendation has to come before you. So yes, they would be, this
Okay.
would apply to them.
All right, thank you.
All right. Anybody else? Mr. Meyer?
Well, so if we add those conditions in number 4, can we pass it tonight? Which conditions do we want to do?
We can amend it
Amend
right
it?
now, like we did the last ordinance. Mr. McClung?
Yeah, maybe we need to hear that, because I really didn't understand what
Yeah.
that amendment was to be.
To add the word in section 4, refusal to participate in meetings, repeated disruption of meetings, or failure to meet qualifications.
That residency
Yeah,
requirement?
does not meet the qualifications of the seat.
Just qualifications, which would include living in the county. Some of our commissions allow you to live outside of the county, outside the city, and some don't.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Depends on the commission.
Yeah.
I think.
Does that answer your question, Mr. McClung?
Pretty generalized, but I think it's probably all right.
Well, that's in the cemetery bylaws, is where I got that one.
Well, I mean, it also affects the one position on the city council too, that one person who is not a business owner on not the city council, but the the CAPC, that one person can live outside the city limits.
No, actually, all of them can. In 2015, the council passed an ordinance.
Just one. It's still one.
No, it's just
only one.
There's only one.
Only one can live outside.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, no. One's general. The others still have to conform to the regulations. But Mr.
yeah. Oh.
McClung's right. If the guy sells a business or doesn't belong, isn't a manager or something, and becomes a cook or something, or changes jobs.
Yeah, I no problem with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And is this where you would want to do it, or do you want to change that? And that, in effect, as in the CAPC, that when someone is no longer on, say their term expires, or in this case, if they're voted off. But, if the term expires, if they're not replaced, they stay on and are still a voting commissioner. And would that also happen in this respect until that position's filled?
It's probably true with all commissions. It's a good question, Mr. McClung. All commissioners, no matter, not just CAPC, but planning and HCC, stay on in that position until a new person's replaced. But I don't know if this affects that or not.
Is that up to their discretion?
It's as if they choose to stay.
If they choose to stay on.
Yeah, which...
Mr. Weaver, I don't...
If they were actually removed by council, I think that the case law would say that they are removed.
Yeah.
They would not have a holdover status.
Yeah.
They would have a holdover status
Unless council removed them.
if council did not remove them.
Yeah. So in other words, a person can stay on that commission unless for some reason the city council decides they don't want them on there any longer, even though there's not a replacement.
Would we need to hear from Municipal League on that? Would that be help to be sure of that? Or you confident? I just don't know that I'm confident enough of
I think Mr. Weaver has probably talked to Municipal League about this issue.
I've not asked him that specific question.
Are you talking about that specific question,
Yeah.
Mr. McClung?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I have had very general discussions repeatedly with a couple of different ones down there, and I think I'm pretty confident, but if you want me to check with them on that specific question, certainly I have no problem with doing that.
Yeah, there's no problem with doing a first reading or something of that nature. Just we need to get that clarification. If we need to amend it, we can do it. I just want to, dot our i's and cross our t's.
Indeed.
What if we, go ahead, Ms.
Do we need, continuing along with this, should we add a sentence, perhaps at the end of section 3, that removed by a vote and that the removal is effective immediately?
What did you say?
That if the city council votes to remove a member of the commission, that it is effective at that time, you don't.
Well, I guess it would be anyway, right?
I don't know whether that's needed, Mr. Weaver. It's pretty.
I don't think it would be necessary.
Okay.
If the council had a question about it at the time of the removal and wanted to make it active to a different time, having that in there might make that somewhat difficult. I don't know of any reason you'd want to remove somebody 3 months before they were actually removed, but
Or 3 months later.
Or 3
Well, we were
months
just
later,
talking
but,
about,
yeah.
if the effect of it, if somebody was if their seat expires, they still can choose to remain on the commission until the seat is filled, and would that apply to this? So I was just looking to see if a little.
If removed, I don't think that it would apply.
Okay.
We do have, if I can get maybe a motion to amend the ordinance on section 4.
I move to give the ordinance a number as amended.
No, well, let's go ahead, and we need to amend the ordinance. We didn't.
Okay,
don't
I
think
move that
voted
we
on it.
amend the ordinance in section 4 to read, or does not meet the qualifications of the seat.
Second.
Okay. Does everybody understand the amendment?
I got a question.
Mr. McClung?
Don't we need to have a first reading of it before you amend it? I mean, we're not really amending it, it's just the attorney can change it, because it's not, it's not a.
Correct.
It's
It hasn't
not a
been
formal
read.
motion to,
Okay, all right.
so you can just change it.
I'll-
You don't have to have anything.
I don't know, Mr. Weaver?
Technically, he is correct. We don't have to amend it. But if we are going to read it and pass it tonight, if it's the consensus, we should read it that way. Right. So
Yeah,
when the
I
clerk,
mean,
when the
just
clerk,
change it.
yeah, when the clerk reads it, she can add that phrase without an actual vote being taken.
Yeah, sure.
You want to do this on an emergency basis?
No.
That's not what he's saying.
Well, if it's passed tonight, that's 3 readings.
It's not going to be passed.
No.
tonight.
No.
Just
So
pass
you're
it.
talking about reading
the
it
amendment.
once tonight?
Yeah, pass it for.
Yeah, just the first reading.
Okay.
I think it would keep it clean if we voted on the revision.
On the
Therefore,
amendment?
No.
so I would call for the question on the motion.
Okay, motion's been called. All those in favor of the question, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the amendment is in section 4, which will be, will state, good cause shall include but not be limited to repeated failure to attend multiple meetings without good cause, refusal to participate in meetings, repeated disruption of meetings, or does not meet qualifications.
Of the seat.
Huh?
Of the seat.
Of the county.
Of the seat.
Of the seat.
Yes.
Of the commission, okay, of the seat. Incapacitation or death of the commissioner and/or resigning by the commissioner. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so you want to make a motion, somebody to,
I move to give the ordinance a number and read it.
as amended, okay.
As amended.
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, we got a motion by Ms. Green, I believe second by Mr. Meyer, to approve the ordinance, assign the number, and approve as amended.
It's not amended.
It hasn't been read.
It hadn't been read.
Oh, that's right. Sorry, it's approved an ordinance for reading. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right.
The ordinance number will be 2312, an ordinance providing for the procedure to remove members of city commissions. Whereas the City Council of the City of Eureka Springs has determined that it is necessary from time to time to remove members of city commissions for cause, and whereas the Circuit Court of Carroll County has determined that only the City Council can legally remove city commissioners. Now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Eureka Springs, Arkansas. Section 1. Any commission which believes one of its members should be removed for good cause shall by majority vote recommend that member be removed by the City Council. The City Council shall, in open meeting, review the good cause found by the commission and shall vote for or against removal of the commission member. Section 3, the commission member shall be removed only by a vote of 4 or more members of the City Council voting in favor of removal. Section 4, good cause shall include but not be limited to repeated failure to attend multiple meetings without good cause, refusal to participate in meetings, repeated disruption of meetings, does not meet qualifications of the seat, or incapacitation or death of the commissioner and/or resignation by the commissioner. Section 5, provisions of this ordinance are hereby declared to be separable, and if any provision shall for any reason be held illegal or invalid, such holding shall not affect the validity of the remainder of this ordinance. Section 6, all ordinances and resolutions or parts thereof in conflict herewith are hereby repealed to the extent of such conflict.
Get a motion to approve ordinance 2312 on its first reading.
So move.
Second.
All right, Mr. Ott made a motion and Ms. Green second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so moved. We will check with Municipal League, Mr. McClung, and see what they have to say and bring it back
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
next time. All right, our next item is, actually, well, I'm going to kind of both, next two items, but we'll bring them up one at a time, is a resolution for the lease on city offices, the Western District Courthouse, and also the parking lot for the county. These are items that we do every year, or we've been doing them, and last year, this change resulted, there's a couple of changes in here, mainly because can I get a motion first to discuss, I guess?
Motion to discuss the resolution.
We'll second
Lease
that.
for city offices, okay. Get a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay. During the COVID crisis that we had, Don Matt decided to retire after 30 years?
35, I think.
25 years he'd been here for a long time. He was our general custodian that we shared with the county, and we paid part of the county, paid part of his salary, and the county paid part of his salary. And he basically did everything. I mean, y'all know Don, and he just was was a saint. And so this new lease that we have, there's two changes. One, and I don't know how many years we've been leasing and had this lease. We went from 85 cents to $1 a square foot, and that's going to be effective as of January 1 of 2022. And then the second part is down under Section 7, where it talks about utility and maintenance, where it talks about the leasee will maintain the restrooms on the lower floor. The leaseor, the county, will employ the custodians for upstairs and the courthouse, and then we'll do the downstairs and clean city offices and but the authority of the maintenance person shall be under the leaseor, the county judge overall. So that's the main difference. We're going to be hiring our own maintenance person to help clean and maintain the downstairs for us, whereas Don used to. So other than that, the lease remains the same as it's always been. So is there any questions?
Make a motion, we sign this number. Pass.
Get a motion to sign the resolution number and pass on its reading.
Second.
All right, Mr. Myers made the motion, I believe?
Yeah.
Okay, and Ms. Green second. So all in favor, no, we do that by roll call or all in favor? Vote.
Oh, roll call's fine. I'm sorry.
All in
voice is fine.
favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
The resolution number will be 801, a resolution to authorize the mayor to enter into courthouse lease agreement. Whereas the City Council of Eureka Springs, Arkansas, having been informed that a new lease agreement is needed to continue the city's use of the county courthouse at 44 South Main, Eureka Springs, Arkansas, and whereas the City Council must approve the expenditure of city funds in order for them to be utilized, and whereas the City Council has been made aware of the need for continued use of the facilities at 44 South Main. Therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Eureka Springs, Arkansas, that the City Council hereby authorizes the mayor to accept and execute the courthouse lease attached hereunto as if set out word for word herein.
All right, thank you. Okay, that brings us up to our next, the resolution for the parking lot lease is item 8.
Motion to discuss the resolution.
I second that.
All right, this is just our standard resolution. The difference on this is it is going to be, and actually both of them were in a period of 5 years as opposed to before they were only 3 years. And the parking lot lease may have been on a year-to-year basis, but this is for 5 years. So other than that, it's all the same.
I'll make a motion to sign the resolution and number and read it.
Per discussion, point of inquiry.
Yes, sir.
Mr. City Attorney, can we bind future city councils to this lease? Does that have to be done with each new seated council?
It has an option where they could opt out if they wanted to. But
Okay.
yes, we should be able to bind this for a period of time, subject to their desire to be let out at the end of each year term.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Actually, there is a clause in there about
Yeah, we can,
both having the option.
Yeah.
to get out. Okay,
Court also could opt out.
a motion. Did I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, Ms. Green made the motion and Ms. Smalley made the second to sign this number and read it for passage. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved.
The resolution number will be 802, a resolution to authorize the mayor to enter into courthouse parking lot lease agreement. Whereas the City Council of Eureka Springs, Arkansas, having been informed that a new lease agreement is needed to continue the city's use of the county courthouse parking lots adjoining the county courthouse located at 44 South Main, Eureka Springs, Arkansas, 72632, and whereas the City Council must approve the acceptance of the expenses in order for city funds to be so utilized, and whereas the City Council has been made aware of the need for continued use of the parking lots around 44 South Main. Therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Eureka Springs, Arkansas, that the City Council hereby authorizes the mayor to accept and execute the lease documents attached hereunto for the lease of said parking lots.
Thank you all. Okay.
What a pile of stuff.
And the next one is an ordinance for the annual property tax levy.
Motion to discuss?
Second.
And again, there's no changes. This is our annual ordinance that we do that has to be done. And also, this needs to be read 3 times, and we don't need the emergency clause. Just read 3 times. We can.
Well, if we did it twice tonight and once at the next meeting, that it would still get there in time.
read it twice, and then next meeting we'll read it again, and then we'll wait 30 days so we can still get it to the county clerk in time
To the quorum court, yes.
to the quorum court. So,
I move to give the ordinance a number and read it.
For passage, I second.
okay, Ms. Green made the motion and Mr. Meyer seconded to sign it, number, and read for his first reading.
The ordinance number will be 2313, an ordinance levying a tax on all real and personal property in the city of Eureka Springs, Arkansas. Be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Eureka Springs, Arkansas, that Section 1, levy on personal property, a tax of 4.4 mils on the dollar is hereby levied on all personal property situated within the city limits of the City of Eureka Springs, Arkansas, for the following purposes. 1, for the general fund, 0.0038 mils. 2, for the Fireman's Pension and Relief, for the Fireman's Relief and Pension Fund, 0.0006 mils. Section 2, levy on real property. A tax of 4.4 mils on the dollar is hereby levied on all real property situated within the corporate limits of the City of Eureka Springs, Arkansas, for the following purposes. 1, general fund, 0.0038 mils. 2, Fireman's Relief and Pension Fund, 0.0006 mils. Section 3, collections. The 4.4 mils above levied on the personal property are to be collected at the regular collection of taxes by the collector of Carroll County, Arkansas, at the same time and in the same manner that state and county taxes are collected in the year 2022. The 4.4 mils levied on real property are to be collected at the regular collection of taxes by the collector of Carroll County, Arkansas, at the same time and in the same manner that state and county taxes are collected in the year 2022.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Ott?
I'm noticing the little attachment at the top left page. 4.4 mils on $1,000 is $4.40, not $44.
Well, I thought so too, so I called the tax assessor, and she assured me that these are the numbers. And I was fairly shocked because when I did the math, that's not what I came up with. Well, if you think the tax assessor is incorrect, please, give her a call and let me know.
Well, 4.4 mils is 0044. You take that number times 1,000, and it comes out 4.4, which is $4.40.
That's what I thought too, Bill. That's why I called her, and I was very surprised when I heard something different. As I say, you're welcome to call her.
Well,
that's why I put this piece of paper on here. I found it amazing. That's not how my math worked out, but I thought, I'm not the assessor.
I'll yield to the city attorney. What are your thoughts, sir?
My belief is that the councilman is correct and that the clerk treasurer was also correct in her original math. I don't think the assessor is correct.
Thank you.
Well, and the other thing is it really doesn't matter because that little gray area up there is not a part of the ordinance.
That's not part of the ordinance.
Okay, I just didn't want anybody to think that, oh my God, we're passing something that's going to put $44 on every $1,000 worth of your property.
We'd
Terry
make
has
budget
something to
next
say.
year.
Mr. McClung?
Mr. Mayor, we failed to vote to read it.
To approve. That hasn't happened yet.
No, we didn't even vote to read it.
Yes?
Well, I think he's right. I don't think we.
No, we didn't.
Okay. Thank you. You're right.
We voted to sign a number and read it.
No.
But there wasn't an actual vote.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, certainly getting late. Okay, let's
Sure
go back
is.
and say all those in favor of reading ordinance 2123 on its first reading, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Second? Okay.
Read.
I don't think she needs to read it. Posthumously,
No,
fine.
that was it. Read.
Okay, now I need a motion.
I'll move to
Did there-
approve on the first reading.
All right, get a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
I move to suspend the rules and place ordinance 2313 on its second reading by title only.
Second.
I got a motion by Ms. Green, second by Mr. Meyer to read second reading by title only. Any discussion? All in favor? Whoops, never mind. Roll call.
Together, we will make one full brain.
That's right.
Yeah.
Mr. McClung?
Yes.
Mr. Meyer?
Yes.
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Ott?
Aye.
Ms. Smalley?
Yes.
5-0.
I move to approve on the second.
We are all getting a little
Okay.
distracted. Okay. Ordinance number 2313, an ordinance levying a tax on all real and personal property in the city of Eureka Springs, Arkansas.
I move to approve on the second reading.
Second.
All right. Any discussion?
That can be voice.
That's it. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. All right, so that takes care of that until next time.
Yes, sir?
All right. All right, it's agenda setting time. Anybody have anything? Mr. McClung?
Well, I don't know if they'll fall under agenda setting or just council comments, but you want me to just take off with that? And
Yeah, you want to go ahead?
Yep.
Okay,
please, yeah, okay.
please.
Number one, and most importantly on my list, is the band shell at Basin Park. It needs repairs, the backside.
Wait, I didn't hear you, sir.
The band shell at the Basin Park needs extensive repairs done to it on the backside, and it needs immediate attention. It really does. And I would think that it's not just parks. The city needs to be involved with it financially if it's necessary. If it's, we may need to pony up 30 grand or whatever, but it needs to be done right away.
The Parks is very aware of it, and they're...
I understand they're aware of it, but it needs, if they don't have the money, the city needs to.
I'll bring that up to Scott tomorrow.
That's one.
Is that agenda?
Number two, I don't think that needs to be an agenda item, no.
No, we'll get working.
Sewer line ditch across Pivot Rock Road needs to be filled in. That was recently done. It was the contractor did it for a sewer line, and that it's sunken, and so that needs to be, whether they got to come back and do it or the city does it, whatever. Emporia Street has a speed bump that's lifting, and so it needs some attention.
Corey Street?
Emporia.
Emporia,
yes. And then I would like a status on Black Bass Dam. We haven't talked about that in a while, and nothing's ever been done, and it can't be in any better condition than it has been, so.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I was going to have that on the agenda the next time anyway.
Good.
So we'll put Black Bass Dam on the agenda.
And I have one other.
We've actually got good news on Black Bass Dam.
Okay, I've got one other, and I know that there was an application in for the Cemetery Commission, and I don't know why it hasn't been brought before us. But
there is?
yeah, I was told it was turned in.
Are you talking about Mr. Wright talking to you about an application? Well, I have not seen that application.
Oh, you haven't?
No.
Oh, okay, well, maybe it hasn't got turned in. I'll check on it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay. Well, all right, Mr. Ott. We're going to do this weird.
Okay.
Are we doing agenda setting?
I don't know. You got an agenda setting?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The matters of the one-way ordinances for Cliff and German Alley, does that need to be put into an ordinance, and that ordinance put on our...
No, we've talked about that.
Okay, and?
I'm going to talk to the department heads. We discussed that during the meeting. I'm talking to the department heads, and if it looks like they don't have a problem with that, we're going to get an ordinance to the council.
Okay, so that will be on next agenda.
Well, there'll be
Not
discussion.
necessarily.
Okay.
When the city attorney has time to write one up.
Do you have anything else?
No, sir, that was it. That was my only note.
Well, what's your, anybody have any other agendas? Well, before I get too screwed up here. All right, Ms. Smoley, how about, do you have any comments, Mr. Ott?
No, sir, it's just good to be back in the saddle here at the end of the table, so thank you for allowing me to, Zoom with you guys when I was at home recouping, so thank you.
You look much better in
Thank you,
person.
sir.
Ms. Smoley?
After a 3-hour meeting, I wouldn't dare make any comments. Everything seems to be well. I am so encouraged by the increase in our sales tax receipts. I've been downtown quite a few times in the last couple of weeks, and everything is lovely. People are using masks. I think it's just as good as it could be. And thank you to everybody, citizens, everybody.
Ms. Green?
I apologize for not wearing one tonight. I didn't bring one. I'm done. My mask.
Oh.
I forgot about the budget meeting and ran out of the house.
Mr. Meyer?
Well, just a short thing. Collections for lodgings from the CAPC were up 46% of what they were the same month in 2019, which is absolutely amazing.
Mr. McClung, did you have any other final comments?
I could probably make something up.
Oh, no, please don't. No.
Sing us a song.
We know how much you like to hear yourself talk, so. All right, I don't have much. I've got just, for a change, I've got a couple of events coming up in Eureka Springs in the next 2 weeks. We got Music in the Park the 17th at 5 p.m., and the special guest is Chucky Wags and Eureka Springs. So, Jeep Jam is going to be on the Passion Playgrounds the 19th, and they are expecting, I think they already have 300 Jeeps registered. So it's going to be, they've moved it from Holiday Island out to here because they've outgrown Holiday Island.
Jeepers creepers.
And the Jeep Jam Parade is going to go at 2 o'clock on the 18th, down Passion Play, from Passion Play around Van Buren, down Plainer Hill, and up Magnetic back to the Passion Play. So we're not doing the Spring Street parades because of the COVID, and people still tend to get elbows to elbows, and it's just, I still don't feel comfortable with the Spring Street route yet. So hopefully, I know our COVIDs are going down. People are getting vaccinated, more people, but it's still not enough. I had 2 friends this last week that just passed away from COVID, and unfortunately they were not vaccinated. So it's still out there and it's still killing people. So please, please, people, get your vaccination. It is a matter of life and death. So, other than that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Not stick around.